Hello dear Motorsport-Magazin friends and Formula One fans. That was the last qualifying session of the 2023 season. And of course Max Verstappen is once again on pole position. Nevertheless, I'll admit it quite openly, I didn't expect it. Now you're thinking, what's he saying? Hasn't he seen the whole season? Yes, but the RB19 was a good car in qualifying. Not a bad one, don't get me wrong. But the strength of the RB19 was always in the race trim. And Verstappen didn't drive in the first practice, only third in the second practice, only sixth in the third practice, even with a considerable gap, and that's why I didn't expect it, and I wasn't the only one. Even in his own team, some people bet against Verstappen, the doctor of all people, and that cost him dearly. He lost 500 euros against Christian Horner as a result. Of course, that hurts particularly badly, especially with the story, and I'll tell you a bit more about that in a moment. Giampiero Lambias, Verstappen's race engineer, also considered joining the bet, but was too hesitant. It's a different salary bracket after all. He obviously wasn't so infected by Vegas fever, even though I think with 500 euros in Vegas, you're not necessarily one of the high rollers. How could that happen? Sure, qualifying didn't start until 18 o'clock, so later than the previous sessions. The track has naturally cooled down, which changes the balance, and Verstappen simply got in much better right from the start. In Q1, he was the only driver to get through with just one set of softs, so he was the only one with two sets left for Q3. He wouldn't have needed the second set at all, as he didn't improve on it, so of course he was able to take the risk and then just ended up with pole position again. So much positive news from Red Bull, but there was also some trouble again. I told you yesterday that the Formula One Commission met. The resolutions were not particularly spectacular, but we did learn one thing. Things got pretty heated. There was a small rebellion from some teams against team alliances in Formula One. We've discussed this before. Haas and Ferrari have always been one of those. They're not currently good enough to be talked about, but Red Bull and AlphaTauri are. It's striking how strong AlphaTauri has been since the summer break. They're bringing out update after update, and they're working, which has naturally brought them into the focus of the competition. As soon as you become successful, you get envious people. But the teams say quite clearly that this is not in the interests of the rules. There are doubts as to whether this is not only in the interests of the rules, but whether things are being done properly. Of course, nobody wants to say this officially, but they want to set the course for 2026 so that these doubts can no longer exist, that everyone has to use their own wind tunnel. They are partly shared in Formula One, and that's why there are really heated discussions. AlphaTauri and Red Bull Racing, who have of course been opposed by the Formula One Commission, want to prevent this. AlphaTauri's plan is quite clearly to use significantly more synergies. The new managing director, Peter Bayer, alongside team boss Laurent Mekies, is there precisely to steer these synergies with Red Bull in the right direction. It has to be said quite clearly that they have simply missed out on this in recent years. Now that the system is being used more successfully again, the other teams are coming and saying, wait a minute, that's not how it was actually intended. Of course, they also say that it's not really great in a franchise system like Formula One, as you can now see that one owner has two teams. But it's fair to say that when Red Bull saved Formula One, when no one wanted to come in, when Dietrich Mateschitz invested millions, no one said it was great that Red Bull was doing it. Now, of course, now that Formula One is becoming a good business model, they're all saying, no, that's not really allowed. I think you have to keep the two things separate. But Red Bull isn't making it easy for itself either. Why is that? Because Christian Horner continues to reach for more power, which you hear in the background. You've all noticed that not so long ago there was a little power struggle between Christian Horner and Dr. Helmut Marko, and apparently Christian Horner continues to reach for power, especially at AlphaTauri. We have found out that he is already commercially involved, including a marketing and sponsorship agency, CAA, which does everything exclusively for Red Bull. Christian Horner brought them to AlphaTauri, where WWP, an agency that Red Bull had worked with for a very, very long time, has been kicked out. This is also due to the fact that the whole sponsorship thing, the new title sponsor, is taking so long at AlphaTauri, which should have been wrapped up long ago, but there are a few things going on in the background. Christian Horner is obviously steering this in the direction he would like it to go, and of course word is getting around in the paddock, and that is a thorn in the side of the other teams. This is a red rag, not only for Dr. Helmut Marko, for whom nothing will change for the time being, but this is of course the dynamic that we already discussed in Austin. The other teams are clearly saying, wait a minute, there is now more sharing than before. We don't know if everything is done in a correct way. We want to put a complete stop to this for 2026. And now one of them wants to be team principal of two teams, which is going too far for us. I'm curious to see how this develops. The competition is anything but happy, and I'm curious to see how the whole thing will continue, whether Christian Horner will sweep it all under the carpet a bit, whether he will try to remain low-key, or whether he will continue to strive for more power. We've already mentioned the bet between the Doctor and Christian Horner, 500 euros. What do you get for that these days? 10.2 vouchers for your favorite motorsport magazine in the print edition. A gift voucher costs 49 euros. So you're giving the gift of a year of real joy. A year's print subscription to Motorsport-Magazin. The link is in the video description. Christmas is just around the corner, and you don't need to dig as deep into your pockets as the Doctor does today, but only 49 euros 1 year. After that, it's over, I promise. It doesn't continue automatically, so you're not taking any risk that you're giving your loved ones something forever, but really only for 1 year. But now let's get back to the sporting side of things. What happened here on the track today? We've already mentioned Verstappen's pole position, but it was actually in a bit of danger from Lando Norris. Who else? But he made a mistake on his last attempt. He had already lost 4 or 5 tenths of a second by turn 13 and only ended up in 5th place, and Norris was really hard on himself. That reminded me a lot of Charles Leclerc when he occasionally threw the Ferrari away, how he castigated himself. Lando Norris was more than clear. He said that he always does a shit job on Saturday lately. He makes far too many mistakes. I asked him, do you really have to be so hard on yourself? He didn't crash into the barriers. He still finished 5th in the end, and he said yes. But if he does, then he's too soft on himself. Decent words from him. Team boss Andrea Stella is a bit ambivalent about it. He says that maybe consistency is a bit more important. Maybe a 99.9% lap would be enough and not always the 100%. But maybe it's also down to the car. Maybe the McLaren is too difficult to drive at the limit. As soon as you're just a little bit over it, then it really slips. That's an interesting topic, but you can actually see that in the whole field with this generation of cars. As soon as you're a little bit on the limit, the cars break out really quickly and you have relatively little chance of catching them. And then we have another really exciting topic for Sunday. Mercedes versus Ferrari. Charles Leclerc has qualified in 2nd position, George Russell in 4th. If it turns out like this, Ferrari would actually overtake Mercedes because the second drivers messed it up a bit. Lewis Hamilton only in 11th position, Carlos Sainz only 16th and already eliminated in Q1. Hamilton had the same setup as Russell, but he just couldn't cope here. From the 2nd free practice session onwards, he failed to perform. It looked the same in the 3rd free practice session, so that wasn't a slip-up. He just can't cope. Russell had also expected a bit more after setting the fastest time in 2 free practice sessions. And at Ferrari, on the other hand, Carlos Sainz had a problem with the front wing. After the accident, he simply didn't have the confidence in the car, had a few more problems with the traffic, and then was eliminated in 16th position. In the 3rd free practice session, qualifying dress rehearsal, he was even last. I'm curious to see whether there might be 1 or 2 tactics to hold off the competition so that they don't score many points when they can't score any yourself. The battle for 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship is completely open. The battle for 7th place between Williams and AlphaTauri is also completely open. Yuki Tsunoda, sensational 6th place on the grid. Of course, the topic we just mentioned comes up again. Is AlphaTauri getting too good? The last word has certainly not yet been spoken. As things stand at the moment, AlphaTauri would even overtake Williams, and Haas still has a mini chance of perhaps catching Alfa Sauber after all. Nico Hülkenberg strong qualifying in 8th position, but we all know that in the race they normally go into reverse gear. In a night race they might have a little less trouble with the overheating tires. Nevertheless, they are not optimistic. It wouldn't be enough to finish 8th either. Haas is not particularly optimistic, but it's an exciting starting situation both at the front of the Constructors' Championship and in the rear midfield, as well as at the very back. I would say it's all set for the last Grand Prix of the 2023 Formula One season. Red Bull and Verstappen are at the front. They will do it relatively safely, but behind them, action is guaranteed. Even on a racetrack like this here in Abu Dhabi,